Hello, welcome to the Land of Yak. My name is Laurel. Today's video is going to be a curriculum consultation with me. Okay, so from time to time, I get people asking me for a phone call or like a shopping list, or basically the message is, I like how you're doing things. What would you suggest for my child? I think every parent is really going to make individual personalized decisions as they go. Sometimes it's helpful just to get the ball rolling, right? So for me, what got my ball rolling was the Robinson curriculum. But then I've put in a lot of work. If you guys watch my channel, you know, I put a lot of work into my school to accommodate my state requirements and like my own personality and my own beliefs and thoughts about certain things, and my own organizational systems and things. So that said, if you're interested in maybe a tool, and I'm gonna link it for you in the description box. I'll show it to you here shortly. A tool and like a little guided talk by me on how you can kind of get started if you're interested in my approach to our homeschool or the resources that I use. This is the video for you. The first document, right, that I'll have linked for you is called Curriculum Consultation. The next, and you've seen these before, I share this pretty regularly. It's something that I update continuously, but I call it my sequences. So what this document is, my path from like kindergarten, generally through like 8th grade. I haven't really charted totally a path through high school yet because I haven't had a high schooler yet. So I haven't made any like definitive decisions on those courses. Of course, I have some ideas, but I haven't laid out anything, on paper yet. Okay, so you can see from the cover, this document is going to cover language arts, math, science, Bible, and history. And I'm going to give the basic order of what resources I use for the different grades, for the different subjects. And that document, so let's look at language arts first, looks something like this. And oftentimes, like you're not doing everything at one time, or I'll have options, like you could use one or the other, right? So like for kindergarten, I've got like 3 options here. So my favorite for getting started with reading, once the kids know their alphabet and all the sounds of the letters, then I like to start them in Teach Your Child to Read in 100 Easy Lessons, at least like the first half of the book, before I move them into the McGuffey primer. So these are options, right? Read in 100 Easy Lessons, or I've also got a link to Alphaphonics. And some people just want to start, like their kids are ready to go straight into the McGuffey primer. A lot of that is going to depend on how old your child is when you start them. So an older child, when kids are older, their brains are more developed, like they pick things up a little faster. They may already know some stuff, or you may be able to teach them straight from the primer. But I do find that Alphaphonics and Teach Your Child to Read in 100 Easy Lessons are helpful for us. But anyways, these documents also contain choices within them, especially in math. Like I have like a couple different math curriculums that I'm familiar with that I've linked. And the last document is something you may have seen from me before, but it's just a blank book list, and it has columns for 3 students to, write the date in that they finished books. It has also 2 columns for if it's an RC book or an easy peasy book, and then of course, if it wasn't one or the other, you could not fill those out, but that's to help me just know where in my own personal home library I have certain titles. It's because I have like my RC books in one section and I have my easy peasy readers in another. It just lets me know that it's in one of the easy peasy readers. So if I know that Heidi is in the 3rd easy peasy reader, then I'll write, under the EP column 3. So I just know it's just helpful for me to find it. So I just gave you that blank document in case you have, in case you like that system. So I'm going to turn you down to my desktop so I can kind of walk you through how you could use these tools to get the ball rolling for picking resources. And there's like some questions to ask yourself to personalize your own journey. I'm just gonna pretend like I am brand new to homeschooling, and I need to make a plan for my, let's say, 7-year-old, okay? So I've got my planner in here, okay, hold on. So I've printed these out. I'll say my student is Johnny Appleseed. He is 7. He is, how many years have I been schooling him? Maybe I've already been homeschooling him, or maybe he was in public school and I pulled him out. It doesn't really matter. This is just kind of a baseline. So let's say this is his 2nd year of school. Let's say we did, actually maybe this is more like the 3rd year of school, let's say, because he's done kindergarten and 1st grade, and this is now 2nd grade, okay? So school year, you can say it's his 3rd school year, right? Maybe called this 2nd grade, 2023 to 2024, right? Or whatever year, however you want to keep track of stuff. Okay, so there's some questions to ask yourself. How much time do I want to spend in school each day? And this is not just for your kids. This is also for you personally. How much time do you want to be present for school? So let's say, like, I'm okay with 4 hours. And I know that seems like a lot, but you'd be shocked, especially when you have multiple kids and they're all in here together, how fast 4 hours goes by. It is true. There's a lot of time of like, because that's got to include like teaching time and work time and feedback and like some activities and snacks and you'd be surprised. So whatever, 4 hours, I say. How many days a week do I plan to school? For me, that's 6 days a week. For a while now, I have found that having Sunday afternoon, like after church, as a day that I look through their everything notebooks. I flag anything that I need to flag. I'll explain more later. And then I have them do any catch-up work or redo anything that I feel like wasn't up to par. Yeah, so we use that as a catch-up day, and I use that information to make my next week's plan. Okay, so maybe it's 5 plus, catch up. What school year do I want? What I meant by this question is, are you going to be like in the traditional school year, where it's like, 9 months or whatever, year round? Do you want to do that 9 weeks on, 1 week off, or, like whatever kind of schedule you want? So I do year round. What are my state requirements? So the ones for me that, stick out are I have to keep records and samples from their work. And I need to teach, K through 12. I have to remember to teach science and social studies. And then 7th grade, I have to remember I have to do composition that year. I have to specifically start teaching composition, 7th and up. All right, and you go to the HSLDA website to look up your state and then take you to a page that will tell you all your state requirements. Is there a go-to hands-on activity my child enjoys? In my house, everyone loves to paint. Everyone loves to draw. Everybody loves to do like either Play-Doh or like modeling clay. We've done that in years past. Whenever I want to just add on an activity, so I just want to have a pretty basic, just a couple options that I can just buy these supplies for and have on hand all the time. So if we were going to, if you wanted a hands-on component, that there's something that you don't have to like scrounge around or go shopping for materials, that it's something that your kids enjoy. So whatever that may be, maybe they love building models, maybe they love writing stories about a subject or comics, or maybe they like to make little movies on your phone. There's just lots of, I don't know, whatever creative thing that you don't mind them doing and that's easy to implement and low cost. I don't want to have to spend a whole bunch of money every time on something. Do I have a go-to book list for independent reading? So since we heavily rely on independent reading for our homeschool, I need to have a vetted list that I don't feel like I have to pre-read every single thing, and I need to take that off my plate. So I have a couple trusted book lists that I have combined and made my own personalized, core reading list for my own school. I like a list that already tells me what subjects these books could fall under. These are going to tend to be along the lines of like living books, right? So could it be used in the science category, like in the young years, like The Tale of Jolly Robin, or the other Arthur Scott Bailey books? Or could it be a historical fiction, like the G.A. Henty novels for middle school and up, where they could use that living book as part of their history curriculum, right? Stuff like that. So yes, I do have go-to book lists. I have the RC book list. I like the Ambleside Online's book list. I like the Easy Peasy readers, right? Which the Easy Peasy, these will have a lot of overlap in titles with these other lists. Easy Peasy readers are also really affordable. It's just really economical way to get several books in one reader that they come with like little lessons that come along with each chapter and stuff. So they're really sweet. I really like them. And when we come to a title that I'm having to read out of the Easy Peasy reader, I will use her comprehension like questions and the little information bits that she gives with the stories and stuff. And yeah, it's a nice little change up too. Okay. Do I want to check out, print, or buy books? This is totally up to you and your budget, really. My preference is to buy books. I've definitely done a lot of printing books and kind of got burned out on it. And so I am just trying to buy used copies of books and stuff like that mostly. Is my homeschool space comfortable and organized? I find it hard to work in a disorganized or chaotic space. I can only assume it's the same for my children. I don't want the room to be too cluttered or their surface to be like, I have what I'm comfortable with. I know that different people have different levels of being comfortable with different like amounts of clutter. So this is just really personal to you. What is organized? What is comfortable? Are the chairs comfortable? Do you remember sitting in school? I don't know. I was a skinny little kid with little bony, butt bones. And I remember it like physically hurt like my tail. Like it hurt my tailbone to sit in the seats at school. And so I was always trying to sit on one leg. I'd always like try to put one leg, and I'd always be having teachers telling me to sit on my bottom. And I'd be like, it like physically hurts me. Anyways, I know you're not physically hurting your kids. I want the kids to be comfortable. So they get like cushions on their chairs and stuff like that, but there's no laying down. Does that sigh tell you that I've dealt with this issue about the whole, like, you can't just lay down, you'll fall asleep. Like, if you hit your marks and you want to curl up with your book and, you doze off, I don't mind if like your work is done for the day. But when it's like school time, you got to sit up. I want you to be comfortable, but not so comfortable that you fall asleep. Okay. Anyways, I'm really for building a home library. We found that libraries are not safe places to take our kids in modern times. Like, this is so crazy. Like, what world are we living in where libraries are no longer wholesome places, And it depends on your library. Not all libraries are that well stocked either. So with the, how cheap, ordering used books and like shipping has become, I have just tried to build my own home library. Then I can always like lend books out to my friends. And, okay, is my homeschool space comfortable and organized? Okay. How could you do that? How do I want to keep records and work samples? Like, do you want to keep an attendance sheet? I personally don't. I don't. Planner, I keep a planner, right? So I keep a record of all of our, you guys have seen it in my planning videos, right? I've got a tab for each one of my kids, and I just record, all their assignments for each week. And like, if there's something that was scored, I just record it in there, and I just keep these, all of them for each kid. And it doesn't take up that much space. It takes up like one manila envelope for an entire year for all 3 of my kids. So then if I had to prove attendance or how many days, which I'm never worried about since we're year-round homeschoolers, but I could just pull out from that year. I could go get that manila folder, pull out which kid, and if I had to, I would just like, total up the days that I had recorded that we were here. Because if we're not here, I just, cross off that day. It's pretty obvious. Okay, that's just me. And then for work samples, the same thing. You do the same method. You can just use the manila envelope method, where I would just take a couple work samples and put it in a manila envelope, title it with the year and everything, and bundle it with the envelope that had the lesson plans in it, I just put like a rubber band around them, keep them together. So if I ever had to prove anything, I have my lesson plans for every kid, and I have an envelope that has a few work samples from each subject, like maybe like 3 work samples from each subject for the year. It's nothing crazy, But now that I have moved to the everything notebooks, I think I'll probably just keep 1 notebook per year as their work sample for each kid, because it has all their subjects in it. It's for a set of time. All right. All pictures. I mean, nowadays, you can just take pictures of like special projects or papers, and you can just make a file on your computer and just keep, digital copies of, stuff that you did, I'm sure. And then where will you store that stuff? Make sure you have a place. Think about, where are you going to store these work samples and records? I just have one of those cardboard like office boxes, and I'm just sticking those things in there, and it's just 1 box worth so far. I wonder how many boxes I'll end up with by the time they graduate. I'm guessing, I guess 4. That's what I think. So right now they're all just in a cabinet in the schoolroom, but I'm assuming at some point I'm going to have to start moving them into the attic. So this is always an important one we're starting to get closer to what curriculum you want to pick. So remember, curriculum just means a group of materials. Is basically just whatever books you're using or materials for each subject. Your curriculum doesn't have to be, I use a Becca curriculum, or I use Sunlight, or whatever. It's anything that you designate to that subject to teach your kid, right? So what skills and knowledge gaps do I want to focus on filling in the next month, 3 months, 6 months, and year? Sometimes at the very beginning, like, you may not know, that might be too much. Just put down what you do know. You're like, okay, at least by the end of the year, I want them reading independently. Or sometimes it's even just like, I want them to be able to have memorized their times tables, or, just so whatever you do know you want them to do, just start and just write it down and start making your decisions. Because the truth is, once you start into school, you will start seeing what you want to work on with them. Like, it'll jump out at you. So I don't think you have to have like a detailed, necessarily plan right from the get-go. Just get the ball rolling and get going. And as you are like checking things and working with them, you'll just be like, oh, they don't know this. Let's address that. Oh, like this is kind of poor. Let's address that. They're really good at this. How can I make sure that they always get to a chance to continue to grow in this thing that they are drawn to or enjoy or excel in? It'll just come to you. I promise. There'll be more. There's probably so many things will come to you that you want to work on that you'll have more than you can it's probably too much, right? But that's okay. We don't have to do everything right now. Anyway, so just what you put down, just a few things just think of your subjects. So Let's say for my 7-year-old for reading, I want him to be able to, I know this was a goal for me, start RC book list, right? That's a goal, right? Maybe by the end of year, maybe, or 6 months or whatever. Then for writing, this stage, I want to see good handwriting, and I want to see them able to write complete sentences independently, right? Let's say for math, so we've got reading, writing, math. These are the big ones for me. Since I was never like a math person, I think most of us don't have like a math scope and sequence just like already in our head. Math, just by the end of the year, I want them to just like finish a math book. Okay, I think that's good. William finished a math book yesterday. Today, I'm going to bake him a cake. We're going to have a math party. So I think math was like my worst subject. I was so intimidated by it. I really celebrate when anyone finishes a math book. Like, that's exciting to me. Okay, anyways, think of content, right? Content is going to be like your curriculum choices, systems. This is, how are you going to keep your records? Are you going to plan? Are you going to be a planner, or are you going to be a recorder? Do you know what I mean? So some people plan everything out and then execute. Some people just do stuff, whatever they're more free-spirited, and they do whatever when the week takes them, the day takes them. At the end of the week, they just record what they did. Do you know what I mean? So what is your system for that? Whatever that looks like for you. I also have systems for like my books. Like all my RC books are in one spot, and they're kind of generally from book 1, to the higher books. All of my writing books about writing and stuff like that, and penmanship are on one shelf. All of my science books are on a different shelf. All of my spelling and vocabulary books are on different. Like, I have like my own little system, right, so I can easily find things. I have a system for where the kids keep their stuff that they're currently using. I have a system for catching missed work. I'll talk about that in a second. So whatever, think about what systems you are going to set up. So what that is going to do for you is free up your cognitive space. So you're not always figuring anything out. Like, you're going to figure out a system and then like coast on that work that you did up front and just let your system work for you. You do have to execute it though. And schedules. Honestly, content and systems, I enjoy this part. This is fun for me. Schedules to me is harder. So it's so because I cannot stand, oh my gosh, this is like, I'm so bad at making appointments because I like my daily schedule to always pretty much be the same. And then I like to just know, I'm like, this is just where I am from this time to this time. Or like, if I have a standing obligation, I want it to be the same day at the same time every week. I'm like notorious for making an appointment or something and then like missing it because I just get up and get into my daily routine. And I am so into it. I don't look up. I don't even think about being like, so I need to be somewhere else. I have to always set an alarm on my phone or else I won't remember. I'll just keep going. Is anybody else like that? Anyway, so schedules for me, that's why year round just works the best for me. Like we're always just every day starts like we have breakfast and do hygiene and we're like in the schoolroom. Like that just works best for me. At least in the morning, and then whenever it's done whenever it's done. And then we can like goof off and be spontaneous and do things. Yeah, like so that, and also I like the year-round homeschool because they just get so much more education. I think I told you guys this recently, but like I did the math one time and we're going to end up getting like 2.5 years more schooling than the, public school or traditional school like setting. And I know that it's not that learning only happens in school, like duh, but I'm just saying we get more schooling. So especially for those of us that had children that were in public school during the pandemic and our kids already had people always talk about church hurt, and I'm like, what about school hurt? Like, I know I have school hurt. I say the other day, I feel like all my traumatic experiences growing up were all at school. Anyways, so for those of us that had children, though, that already had gaps in their learning from unaddressed issues, from being in public school, and then the pandemic happened, and then they held everyone back. And so we may I'm sure there's a real anxiety amongst a lot of us that our kids are behind, that they won't be ready for. I always worry about, like, I just want them to be ready by the time we get to high school, because schoolwork just gets a lot harder in high school. And then I have to start giving grades and stuff. And I'm not going to fluff my kids' grades. I'm just not. Like, because we need to be realistic. I don't want to be, if they're not Ivy League material, I'm not going to be giving them straight A's, like pretending like they're, do you know what I mean? Setting them up to fail, where they think, oh, I'm so smart, I got straight A's or whatever. I'm like, okay, yeah, I got straight A's in high school, but it was really like a 6th or 7th grade level class. Do you know what I mean? So many other avenues of life and directions and skill sets that your grades aren't going to reflect anyways, Like, there's no grade for having a good personality, and that gets you pretty far in life. You know what I mean? I heard recently that the number one reason that people are fired is attitude. It's bad. People have a bad attitude. It's bad for, morale, company morale or whatever. Think of content systems and schedules. Also, this has to do with, like, what time are you going to start? Again, back to question 1, how long do you want to be in school? I'm really playing around with schedules for my oldest. He's 12. You know how tired, you know how much sleep they need, And his younger brothers are up hours before he would naturally get up. And so I've been getting him up, and it just set us up for so much conflict because he really had a hard time getting up. And I finally was like, I'm going to just try to work with what his brain needs are. Like, maybe I'm harming him because his brain actually needs that extra sleep to develop and grow and, like, do all the stuff that the brain needs at this age. So I've been, like, letting him sleep in later. I mean, that does mean that he tends to now be in school after me and his brothers his little younger brothers are done. But yeah, not necessarily. If you can be on the same schedule, it's wonderful. But in my opinion, it's okay to, like, have a separate schedule for a family member that has a different need. Rules of thumb, this is on there. Oh yeah, one thing I was going to talk about was using the red flag method. Let me see if I have an example. Hold on. Okay, this is my son's notebook, his everything notebook. He designs his own covers. So do you see these red flags? So the other day, I hadn't I had missed checking his work the week before. And then a whole week went by. And then I was like, oh man, I need to check his notebook to see how his work is looking. Because he primarily works independently, right? So I'm not seeing it as he's doing it so much. And I hadn't checked his notebook. And so I had 2 weeks worth to look at. But what I do is I just have a red, and you can use any sticky note, doesn't matter. I just cut, strips. And then anything, when I go back and check his work on, like, hopefully Friday evening, but sometimes not till, like, Sunday, I will be like, okay, like, something wasn't good enough, or he missed it. Like, every once in a while he'll, like, completely skip over something. I'll be like, how did you not do that? Yeah, he hadn't taken, so, like, on this one, so he hadn't taken his quiz. So he was supposed to do a quiz that day. It was checked off, oddly, but then there was nothing here. And so I flag it, and I said, did you do this? Where's the quiz? He hadn't written it in for me. So yeah, I just go through and I flag things that he needed to finish. Like, he skipped over, I put question mark because he was supposed to be doing an experiment that day, and this was left completely blank. I'd say, make some clouds, just write up your conclusion below and draw your experiment. So he drew his experiment. I don't think they were really testing anything. I think it was just, anyways, I'd see this still to me is not sufficient. I would still say, your conclusion should be, like, what was the point of this experiment? What was it teaching you about cloud formation? So this is still, anyways, but I will have him go. I just do the red flag. Like, maybe he missed one, I'll say incomplete, like he did all but, like, one of the questions. sometimes it happens, like kids will get hungry and they'll be like, oh, time for lunch. And then they'll like think that they had like finished something they were working on, but they really stopped in the middle. You guys know what I mean? So you have to have oversight. You have to like check stuff. Anyway, so this is what I have to go over today or tomorrow and make sure he's actually, there were so many red flags. I actually took 2 days last week as catch-up days. I'm like, we're not signing any new material. Just go back and address all your red flags. And I'm going to check it. And then Sunday, if everything looks good, he can have Sunday off. But if there's stuff that he still needs to address, then he'll have to come in here with me on Sunday afternoon and do that. Oh, that's reminding me. Somebody asked me about read alouds. Like, when do you transition from reading aloud to your kids to having them read independently? I just thought I would answer that question while I was in here. And I can make a whole video where I show more in depth, like what certain books I use and stuff. But I actually never stopped doing read aloud. So when they're first starting school, you know, I started in preschool with like my youngest, right? We did preschool, homeschool. And so obviously I was reading aloud to him. He's just teaching him his letters. Kindergarten now, he has gone through his first half of how to teach your child to read 100 easy lessons. He's into the McGuffey primer. So those are his instructional. I am currently teaching him to read, right? Well, at the same time, I'm doing read alouds as every day. And this is to me, this goes to reading comprehension. And we do get a bit of that in like the primer, right? Because we ask him comprehension questions, or he narrates back as an oral narration for me what he read. And then I might ask him a few questions like, where were they? Or what time of day was it? Or, what was the girl's name or whatever. But it's always fun to do a little bit more comprehension with like a story that they enjoy. Just because like in the primer, the stories are the passages are so short, right? So like right now we're reading Winnie the Pooh. That's his read aloud. I probably read about half a chapter a day. And we do this in his everything notebook. Oh, Missy, now I want to show you that too. Okay, so he's in the primer, which like he's on lesson 15. But these are really short, right? So I love to have, right now we're reading Winnie the Pooh, like I said. And we always do the read me a story page in his everything notebooks. Or actually this is my first copybook series. This is the 5th copybook. But I read him a story or chapter, and then I write in the story title, but we are teaching him to I ask him back what happened, right? And then this is really helping him. He's a very high energy kid, to focus and like control himself for the read aloud time, which is hard. It's easier for him as an energetic kid to be like math is very active. Like you're working the problem. He's using his abacus. We're flipping flashcards, right? Stuff like that. Just listening to a story is much harder for him because he's so busy. And so I don't mind if he like draws or something while he listens, or if he just sits and listens, or if even if he stands up and walks around, as long as he's like disciplining himself to listen. My other 2 boys would always they want to sit in mom's lap and just listen and look at the pictures. Like, yeah, he really doesn't, unless it's like a book that he's picked and he's really into it. Like, he's still obsessed with his Richard Scarry books. That's usually what he gets at night for his bedtime story. But I'm trying to branch out, right? I try to get to look at the pictures. Anyway, so he listens to it. He, again, answers any questions I have about it. This is a great way to bring up vocabulary. You know what that means. Which we do with our McGuffey too, but I just also did this, and then he does, takes the story and he puts it into, 3 events in chronological order for me, and he can pick them, but he draws it out. Let me see. Oh, here's one he just did yesterday, right? Winnie the Pooh, chapter 3, Piglet in front of his house, Piglet and Pooh, and then, Piglet, or Pooh and Christopher Robin was up whistling at them in the tree. Anyways, he did put these in the right order of what happened. So we're kind of working on that sequencing skill for reading comprehension. And putting what he heard into visual form. Anyway, so to me, it goes to listening comprehension, right? Which is like the precursor to reading comprehension. Anyway, so we do that, and one of the other boys we read, because we used to do the good and the beautiful, and so I would read to them, like for history, and so I would read to them the readers, and the boys, Everett was in middle school already, loved that time. When I read to Bo, my kindergartner, my third grader always stops and comes in and listens, which I don't mind. He's getting stuff out of it too still, And so I don't think I'll ever stop doing read alouds. I think we'll just keep, I'm planning on doing, I think we should read all the Narnia books. I think that might be a fun family read aloud. That's the kind of thing that even my middle schooler, even though he has, I think he has actually read, I think in fourth grade, he read some of them, not all of them though. As they get older, we can read heavier books, about different topics. Anyways, I don't know. As long as you have the time, the energy to do read alouds as a family, I think you should. It doesn't have to be like a super long time, but it also gives you all something to talk about. It's just like a very bonding experience. I know a lot of families read Bible together, and which, we do too, but I just consider Bible a subject. But just to be like, we're a family of readers and we have this in common, like your whole life, you'll be finding yourself getting together with your family if you have this reading culture and talking about the books you read. It'll be something that you guys just do. I know that was kind of a thing in our family, and so yeah, I want to set us up as we're readers. Okay, that was kind of a long. Anyway, so as far as when do they become, so I'm always doing read alouds and simultaneously teaching them to read, and I use the alphaphonics readers right now, and I also bought the Treadwell readers, and I bought some other little books that were phonics type books. Anyways, those are all together on our little free read shelf in the schoolroom, and I just I will give him, right now I've given him the first alphaphonics first reader. Now that I know he's past a certain point, so that's actually easier. Where he is in the alphaphonics reader is easier than what he's reading in the McGuffey primer. But that's what I would want it to be, right? The instructional level is always a little bit higher than what you're just reading for usually independently. The instructional levels, because you actually need someone to teach you what these sounds are, or what this prefix means, and stuff like that. So yeah, what they read independently, you want it to be something that they've already mastered, that level of reading. You don't want to give them something that's going to be frustrating to them, or that they aren't going to be able to get through, or they're going to have to ask you for help all the time. That's not the point of independent reading. So yeah, I just started having him, the alphaphonics, I told him if he can read it, he can draw the picture in it. I'm letting him draw on it, which is you should have seen his face when I told him he could draw on that book, because, you're not allowed to draw books. I did for my, what did William start reading when he got really good at reading? And he read all these little, kind of little, I called them bridge books, but they weren't anything on any of the book lists. But when he was reading those really well, he started onto the Magic Treehouse series. That's a pretty, the reading is pretty easy compared to because I was trying to get him into the RC list. There were so many in that series, it really built up. He got really good at reading at that level, And then we switched him to I bought the Tom Swift, the new Tom Swift series. There's 8 of them. It's a younger character. It's supposed to be in present times, and the original Tom Swift is I don't know, the uncle or something of this kid. I can't remember. They go to Swift Academy. And then I have the Merlin Mission books, which are a step up. It's the same writer as the Magic Treehouse series. But it is a step up in reading level, which is great. And he's going to read all of those. So I don't ever really stop the read alouds. I always do them, but they're just, I don't read a super long time. And it might be in the morning while we're having breakfast is when I've typically been doing our family, we're almost done with 5 Children and It. And I've been reading that one to them. like in the morning while we have breakfast. Yeah, I don't know. I feel like that might be a little bit of a garbled answer, but I never really stopped read alouds. But I've heard recently that you want to do read alouds at least through 3rd grade, just because they're so beneficial for the kids to hear how words are pronounced, to hear where you pause and where you put inflection, and then like the book discussions that come afterwards are so beneficial to them, to understanding, for them to get the practice of how to understand a book. And if you read a variety of like text structures, that's helpful, I think. If you guys are more interested on like more talks about read alouds and different like book selections, I do have a couple things I could show you guys. So tell me if you want to talk more about reading comprehensions and like read alouds and stuff, just leave me a comment and I'll work on putting together some thoughts I have on that for you and some resources to share. I check work daily. So for the younger kids, I can check their work daily. Like I said, for my oldest, I check it more like weekly. If you could check it daily, that'd be best, but weekly if you can, if you are really busy with, multiple kids. This is specifically for my RC family readers. So RC has a very specific schedule, daily schedule for like reading and stuff. And so I have on here some examples of how you could calculate. People are just asking like, how long should I have my 8-year-old reading for that component of that curriculum? So I have just some guidelines here for that. And it's just to remind you guys, so for me and my homeschool, the basic idea is read something and talk about it, or read something and notebook on it, or read something and write on it, right? We're just basically, all the subjects you have a book for all of them, right? You're going to read something and then you're going to do something with it. Yeah, don't hover, but be close by working, reading, or planning. I have to be. Anyway, so then there is this curriculum list. I gave you just like a blank one to work from. So I just got subject, the books you want to use, and like other materials you might want to use, like whether it's like flashcards, manipulatives, art sets, science kits, right? Like whatever you think would go. And I have this rough weekly schedule. So some people, like me, I'm a every subject every day kind of school. That's just me. And I'm a 6-day. So this is here if you want to start playing around with that. Some people are going to want to do history. There was a time when I was only doing history 2 or 3 times a week instead of every day. Yeah, these are here. And then how do you fill this out? What I have to offer you is my sequences. This is personally, this will give you some ideas of things I use, right? For language arts. Again, these are all links in this document. So you'll want to, as you're looking at your blank curriculum page, you're going to want to pull this up so that you're like, okay, what do I want for, math this year? Say he's going into the 3rd grade or 2nd grade. We're working on number sense and math facts. We want to, practice that with some math games. Oh, look, Laurel really likes number stories, book 3 for this grade. So you could click on that and see what that book looks like. You can click on Raise New Intellectual Arithmetic. I like that series too. Click there. Right Start Math. I like this series too. And some other things. This is a free Olney's math workbooks, right? My favorite abacus, flashcards, stuff like that. Anyway, so you can be looking at stuff to see if you like any of it, and then just write down what those books are or what other materials are. For writing, I like to think about writing as, so it's handwriting, right? That's something to think about. It's like penmanship, it's spelling, it's grammar, right? So you want to think about those 3 things and what you want to make sure you're covering those, right? Like for reading, you want to make sure, okay, what am I using to cover for phonics? How am I going to make sure I'm moving them forward in their comprehension? And what about, I also consider vocabulary under reading, but reading and writing, they kind of go hand in hand. Social studies, I've moved from teaching it as a family subject, just because I just didn't have the energy to teach another thing between having to be so intensive on reading, writing, and math already. I just have moved away from doing it as a family subject, although it did work for us for a long time when it worked for us for a time. But I'm now into social studies being something that they just do independent reading for that. And same with science, just independent reading. Although I do get, like my old 7th grader, he is doing labs with his course, but he does them alone. I don't want anything to do with it. You just go in the kitchen and do your lab, okay? And then I do have like some science kits and like microscopes for my 2 younger boys that we can use. But, it's not really like science right now. It just, it's not really experiments, but it's just fun stuff. But sometimes it helps them. And then rough weekly schedule, we already talked about that. So when I am looking for curriculum, I'm going to be looking at my book list, my core book list. I'm going to be looking at my sequences. I can't fit everything from the book list into my sequence documents, or my sequence document would be so huge. And I just keep those things. That'll get the ball rolling. That'll get you started. So in my planner, right, I've got my sequences section, so I can always refer to this myself, and also my language arts plan for my McGuffey reader. So I can always refer to this to keep myself, if I ever need to look back on, like, what are we going to do next, or, whatever. I have my core book list, the one that I'm going off of at the moment, that I've combined, several lists and plus things that are my own additions to the book list. I have a system for where I find them in my home library. Then I'm like writing in all the extra ones. I'm working on making a whole updated list, but it's a lot of work. I've got a Henty book list by the titles and then like the approximate year that they're supposed to take place, so I can use those to supplement my history curriculum. And the same with the Easy Peasies. I printed this off of her website, and it tells me what reader and what titles, so I know where to find them when I come to them in my book list. I'm like, okay, I said it on here, it's in the Easy Peasy. But yeah, I just printed this off while I was making that book list. Okay, then I've got a section for each kid to keep my records in. Like your planner is like a whole thing, a whole system that for me, it's like a must. It's really helpful. I usually keep a curriculum list of what we're currently using at the front. And I can check off as we finish certain resources as we go. This is my 5th grader, or my kindergartner, sorry. And I keep his records a little differently. I just say what subject we did and check off the days, just because everything with him is just open and go, and I don't actually plan for anything. And I just keep it, and I just total up how many days at the end of the month. Okay. I hope that was helpful. If you have any questions about what I just went over today, leave them in the comments section. Good luck and God be with you on your homeschooling journey. Okay, talk to you soon.